If you recognize this space, you are a creeper because you have no idea where I am. I bet you don't know where I am. I'm at the Target Center Lifetime again, so I'm not in my well-said studio anymore, right? I'm out on the move, running around, and I've actually had a lot of fun with these portable episodes because I am on the go and I can talk to cool people and squeeze them in during my workday, which is kind of fun. But today I have a special podcast with Dr. Jim Lavalle. Lavalle. How am I saying it now?
How many times is it going to take?
I don't know. Can you say it again?
I think I need to give you memory pills.
I think I need to too.
Remember, it's an A.
Lavalle. Oh, like more of an... Okay, well...
That's how well known I am.
Do you know there's a company named Lavalle?
Yes.
And that's all that I hear in my head when I'm about to say your name. And I'm like, I'm going to say it wrong. Well, guess what? He's here and he can tell you his last name correctly because it is an A. But I have a really fun episode to talk about optimizing health. We did an episode with Jim Riggins on my metabolic code and my blood work. And we went into depth in that. This is going to be more about optimizing your health. Topics that we're going to cover are going to be like the latest in health, metaformation. We're going to talk about overall concept of metabolic code and tangible takeaways for your own health. We're going to talk a little bit about blue zones and why they're a lot of times misconstrued and what people take away from them as the larger picture. We're also going to just talk about like how can we actually live longer and general themes of wellness we need to pay attention to. I asked listeners, you guys, and I read this also in the Jim Riggins episode on my blood work, and I'm going to reread it again, but I asked you guys if you could optimize your health, how would you optimize it? Okay. Hormones is a lot of times what I see. Hormones balance and lowering cortisol, less estrogen, stress, anxiety, pain, optimizing foods for diets for myself and my skin, sleep habits, being sick less. I've got gut health, digestive health, psoriasis, bloating, mental health, PCOS, and PMDD. You name it, it's probably on the list. And I want you to understand that this conversation is for you. If you wrote in one of those things, it is for you. I'm trying to give you access to information, access to what is the research and how can I optimize better for myself, for yourself, okay? So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
It's good being here.
I'm excited to have this conversation.
No, it's fun.
And you've got your MIORA shirt on. You're ready to rock.
Of course.
Of course, you have to. MIORA is in the Lifetime Target Center downtown. If you're a Minneapolis crew, you can come check it out, but you'll understand why you'd even check it out by having this conversation. So, Jim, if you don't mind, will you give everybody kind of not an elevator pitch, but an intro to who you are and give your credentials and all that amazingness?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So, Jim Lavalle. That's the first one.
That's true.
Said appropriately. Clinical pharmacist, board certified in clinical nutrition, got a master's in theology and pastoral counseling, diplomat in homeopathic pharmacy, homeopathic medicine, taught at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine Pharmacy for 20 years, and currently on staff at George Washington School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And then I'm the academic co-chair for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, which is represents 46,000 doctors and 32 countries, and then I chair the International Peptide Society. And written 26 books and 20 topics in the ebooks in this area, 4 databases. Worked with the Pro Football Hall of Fame on their clinical proactive health program for them, and then I currently work with athletes on all 5 major league sports, special forces, the military, and then most importantly, I work with everyday people that suffer from bloating and psoriasis and being overweight and being pre-diabetic and not feeling like their mind's as sharp as it should be. And so, I've been doing this work for 40 years now.
Oh my goodness.
So, it's interesting. When I turned 60, I got super interested in longevity. I think for a good reason.
I think so too.
Because I think I want to really live a long time if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been doing it for a long time and had probably the biggest clinic in the United States doing personalized medicine for people. We were working on 300 to 400 people a week. So there,
oh my goodness.
That's the elevator pitch.
Have you ever been called a smarty pants before? Your list of things that you've done is quite extensive. Whoa. And the coolest thing is you share your knowledge with other people. And what I like to do is give access to people.
Sure.
Like people like you who have all this extensive knowledge and about things that we should be caring about, right? Like health and longevity, because I genuinely care about it. And when I sit down with people like you, I learn things that I didn't know before and actually can take tangible things away and say, I'm going to make changes to my life.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I always think of myself more of like a bricklayer because I don't really think I'm that smart. I think I've got incredible mentors that I had the pleasure of, standing on their shoulders. And I have really smart students that are under me that teach me a lot. And it makes me end up looking pretty smart.
Yeah, it's admirable that you even speak to it like that. So congrats on that too, and all your accomplishments. That's amazing. I want to talk to you about like what the latest of health is. Let's just start there because there's a lot to dive into and we have a lot of topics. We probably won't get to them all, so we'll probably have to do this again. But what is the latest in health and wellness and what are people talking about?
Yeah, well, the big area that I've been diving into full tilt is metaflammation and inflam aging. So, and I didn't make those terms up. That's what I love about it. Those terms have been in the medical literature since. I wish I did make them up. They would be such cool trademarks.
That would have been sweet.
Metaflammation, from the metabolic code, right? But I couldn't do that.
Dang it.
But the point is, with metaflammation, people have to understand that everything about what you've done from the time you're in your mother's womb till today makes up your chemistry, and it's dictating where your health is today, but more importantly, where you're going to be in the future.
Interesting.
And that metaflammation leads to inflam aging. And that's another term that I wish I invented.
What is that? What does that term mean?
So cool. Inflammatory aging. So I have metabolic inflammation in my body, right? And that's due to a variety of things, which I hope you're going to ask me about.
I was going to ask you. Yep.
Perfect. And then all those processes going on in your body is either accelerating the aging process or not. And, it's easy to see because, you can look at two 60-year-olds and go, whoa, what happened to that person? Mm-hmm. They look 80. Or, wow, they don't look like they're 64 years old. They don't look a day over 63.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like you. He looks at the camera. He's like waiting for Sid the other Sid is here too, to say it. I had to say it.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, with metaflammation, the thing you have to think about is your body is supposed to have an inflammation response. That is normal. Mm-hmm. But what happens is, and when you have an inflammation response, it's there to repair something. And when it repairs it, the inflammation response is supposed to turn down. So when we say inflammation response, that means you've heard of the term cytokines, right? Mm-hmm. Inflammatory cytokines, metalloproteinases that are floating around in your connective tissue, all the different inflammatory compounds that are going on in your body now get turned off and you return to balance, or what I call homeostasis, and what's been written about, right? Homeostasis is about keeping your chemistry not running too hot, mm-hmm. but also not running too cold. And it turns out that that's how we keep our genes from transcripting into bad actor genes and creating our epigenetic changes is through maintaining that balance. So the key things that you'll see when you have metaflammation is the first thing, you start making more bad actor lipids.
What does that mean?
So bad actor lipids. So everybody hears about LDL cholesterol. Mm-hmm. LDL cholesterol can be good or bad. Mm-hmm. And we don't think of it that way. We think of it, LDL is bad, HDL is good. So you can make very small particle LDL cholesterol. And that would be, if you have a tennis net on the inside of your artery, your endothelium.
Okay, yep.
I could throw a softball into the tennis net. Is it going to go through the tennis net? Softball.
No.
Through a tennis net.
Too big.
Way too big. How about a BB?
Yes, absolutely.
So when you are under a lot of stress or have environmental burden, or you are under insulin resistance because you're either eating too many carbs or maybe you're overtraining, eating too many sweets, not getting enough sleep, just pick it. Maybe all of them, right? You start to remodel your LDL cholesterol to make BB-sized lipids. And when you do that and you penetrate that inner lining of the tennis net, your immune system attacks it and now starts to rust or oxidize that cholesterol. And then you develop calcification. And so that's the first thing that starts to happen with metainflammation. You start to no longer store ferritin when you have metabolic inflammation.
I think ferritin was one of the things I was either low on or something like that. Lower, not like an alarming low, but like, oh, maybe that should be something we should pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you have a ferritin below 75, you're not anemic, but you're not optimized.
And it's iron related, right?
It is iron related.
Okay.
So that's the point, is that iron should be stored as ferritin. When you get inflamed due to metainflammation, you send out this chemical called hepcidin. Hepcidin turns off ferroportin, and now I don't store ferritin. So I have normal iron, low ferritin. What's that lead to? Well, I get palpitations. I can get headaches. I can get winded going up steps, even though I can work out really good on flat ground. I don't know if you have any of that, but if you did, that would be a reason for normal iron and low ferritin. Now, the other option would be you're just low in iron.
Yeah.
Right? And for women who are in menstruating ages, sometimes it's difficult to get enough iron unless they're, eating enough red meat, or if they're deciding, because, getting spinach and, hey, I'm going to get all these plants with iron. Problem is, it's not very well absorbed.
Right.
So the reality is, if you're either not eating it enough, not absorbing it, because maybe you've got a leaky gut, or otherwise known as gut permeability problem, or you got metainflammation and now you can't store the ferritin.
Man.
So 3 things that can happen, and they really do affect you a lot. And when I go out and talk to physicians, I just came back from doing 3 days with doctors, 22 hours of education.
Wow.
And I bring this up all the time. How often are you seeing this now? And they're like, oh, yeah, we see it all the time now.
Oh, really?
Where people have normal iron and low ferritin. So that's one big one. The next one is muscle loss. You get sarcopenic when you are metabolically inflamed for 2 reasons. One, you flatten your cortisol curve. It's not just about having a high cortisol in the morning, but you flatten your cortisol curve. So all day long, you're under sympathetic dominance.
Which means you are not under stress. It'd be the opposite, right?
You'd be very stressed.
Oh, it's the opposite of what I'm thinking.
You would be very
so it's
stressed.
like you're under way too much stress.
Yes.
So now you're steadily stressed all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So now you're always getting the signal to not be able to hold on to muscle. Muscle is the currency of aging. Okay? The more you can hold on to your muscle, the better. So when we're metabolically inflamed, we lose our growth hormone signaling, and now our muscle breaks down. The other piece that happens is we start to lose our signaling to make testosterone and estrogen. I know you mentioned one of those things of too much estrogen. Really isn't too much estrogen. It's too much estrone. Women, when they lose their estradiol at menopause, actually accelerates the fact that more women will die of heart disease postmenopausally than men do. Because when they lose their estradiol, you lose your magic wand, which is estradiol is protective. You create anti-inflammatory glycans, a component of every cell in your body, when you keep your estradiol intact.
Which keeps your inflaming down. Got
exactly.
it. Okay.
Now your vessels don't get plugged up. The next thing that happens, because this is big.
I know. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me now?
I know you're on the edge of your seat. I can tell. But the next thing is you become insulin resistant. So it turns out that the more you release inflammatory cytokines, it turns off your insulin receptor from functioning as well. What that means is, one, your glucose goes up, especially under higher cortisol, because you're fighting a white tiger. The second thing is you induce something called GLUT1 transport. Now, this is important because I wrote it's just because I wrote a textbook on it.
Oh, just important. Yeah, exactly. That's why.
That's why it's so important. So, but I really did.
You did. That's cool.
Yeah, it was called Diabetes and Cancer: Epidemiologic Links and Molecular Evidence. It was a textbook, and the best thing about it is it doubles as a sleeping aid. Because if you just open it up and read one page, it's like, I'm out. I'm so out.
I was going to say, I don't think that would be my first pick on the shelf, but at the same time, I love to learn, so I'm not putting it down, right?
Let me paraphrase.
I didn't write a book. I didn't write a book, so I can't even talk.
I'll tell you. I'll just paraphrase it in like one paragraph for you.
Go ahead.
It's simple. When you lose your ability to efficiently use glucose, you go into what's called GLUT1 transport. So you suck glucose into your cell really quick, but you make a lot of waste products. So you become a gas-sucking SUV within your cell instead of something metabolically efficient. The problem with that is you make a bunch of waste product, a lot of lactic acid. The cell becomes acidotic. You damage your mitochondria. The cell becomes immortal. You spit out the acid outside your cell, and it creates what's called a necrotic space for you to be able to grow that cell. And so what people don't realize, when they are insulin resistant, you're overweight, and you are not watching your blood sugar, you are risking an increased risk of cancer in your future longevity. So people with insulin, that was that whole book of diabetes and cancer. So we went from pre-diabetes to diabetes to cancer. What's happening inside your cell that makes you move to that endpoint? Right? So it's really important when people are overweight. My brother was 476 pounds.
Okay.
My mother was obese. My father was a type 2 diabetic. I love everybody.
Yeah.
I don't care what size you are.
Of course.
It's got nothing to do with it. But I do want people, when they're overweight, to understand we're fighting a battle together so you can live as long as possible, as healthy as possible. You can enjoy your children, your grandchildren, if those are your goals, or whatever it is you want to do as you're aging. And see, that's why we have to think of metaflammation and inflammaging. Other things happen. You lose bone.
Oh, yeah, bone mass.
You lose bone mass. And when you lose bone mass, people don't realize 20% of people that crack their hip die. 50% never walk again.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, these are big, right?
They're big things.
This is aging.
The hard part is my micro. I keep missing. Whoa! I just had it. There we go. I think it's the twist.
Are we supposed to?
No,
be doing
you
this
don't
as
need
part of
to.
it?
No, you keep
sure?
doing. There you go. My headphones. I remember why these are my on the go headphones, because they go in and out, and so I'm like randomly like, what? I can't. What's going on? Perfect. I can hear you now perfectly. So this is nice. It was the twirl of the headphone. What I was gonna say was, a lot of people don't realize. Okay, that's down the road. That's when I'm 80 or, 60, 80, 70, 80. Well, I right? Like, that's when we start to quote unquote think about it, because we're looking at our grandparents, maybe our parents at this point.
Sure.
But the hard part is how do we make people realize it's actually the decisions that you're making now and the health now that feed that later. Like, because when I look at, people in their 20s, or they can eat whatever the hell they want. They're going to McDonald's. They're going to whatever. They're not sleeping very much because they don't need it. They don't really care about supplements because, as far as they know, they're doing pretty decent, right?
Right.
Like, I think there's a lot of people living in this. I assume I feel good because everybody kind of feels good, kind of feels bad.
It's an illusion, but
it really is. But it is. It's a good point to make.
Well, here's the thing: women, for example, don't realize that you build all your bone density in your 20s. And the first year out of menopause, you will lose 25% of your bone density when your estrogen drops out.
Oh, my God.
And so if you don't build your bone density in your teens and 20s, you're the one that's prone. It's no longer the silver-haired, blue-eyed, or the Asian woman that you worry about for osteoporosis now. 30% of cases of osteoporosis are now men. Part of that is because of people taking proton pump inhibitors or acid blocking medications because of their reflux.
I took that at one point.
Well, I just got to tell you, I think they forgot that we're supposed to chew our food. It's really weird when you chew your food, you digest it.
Oh, is that how it works?
It does. And it's interesting. Even when you put it in a blender, you're supposed to swoosh it around a little bit and chew your liquid, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to release salivary amylase. And when you don't do that, food doesn't break down. Now I get GERD. I'm belching up. I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe how bad my heartburn is burning me. I'm going to have to take a PPI. When you take a PPI, you reduce vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, protein, so you get catabolic, as well as vitamin B12.
Sounds familiar.
And then for men, why more men are in that position is more men are becoming hypogonadal earlier, meaning they're losing their test early. I have guys in their 20s with 160 testosterones.
Which is
200
low or?
testosterone. Unbelievably low.
What's it supposed to be?
Like 80-year-old man low.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Why would that be?
One, stress hormones do it. Two, there's a lot of those issues of environmental, estrogens. That's a big deal.
Okay.
The third one would be the fact that when I take a PPI, if I'm in my 30s or 40s,
PPI being
a proton pump inhibitor, and I'm under stress, and my testosterone goes down, now I don't have testosterone to build bone mass. And this is a
man.
common thing that I even see in athletes, because what they've just discovered, this is a buddy of mine did this study. And actually, when I was working with the Orlando Magic, I was talking with him as a trainer because I've worked with him for a while. At the ligament bone interface, when you crack a bone, like a radial crack, or you have a ligament tear with a little bony, you know, extrusion.
Splinter, I've seen right, kind of, they call it.
So what happens is you need adequate hormones at that junction in order to heal it. So what are we finding out? People that go to try to repair after an injury, whether you're a professional athlete or you're here in the gym.
Yeah, just moving your body.
It's taken me 6 weeks to repair something was supposed to be 2. How come I'm not repairing?
How come I'm not healing?
I'm doing all the right things. But here's the thing, it's interesting. Here's what you hear. I'm going to PT, meaning I'm doing the biomechanical things correctly, but when the biochemistry's not right, the biomechanics can't correct. So that at the NBA Summit last year, because I spoke at the NBA Summit.
Oh, that's cool.
All the NBA teams.
Oh my
Very
God,
cool.
that's sweet.
It was.
Did you see any cool guys?
Of course.
Yeah, duh. Hello.
Yeah. Do you know who you're rolling with right now? I mean,
this is a cool guy. Did you know that? This doctor right next to me, he's a cool guy. Okay, got it.
So the point being is I got up, I said, you know what, guys? All I hear you doing is talking about force plate, return to play. What's the angle on the knee to the hip and to the ankle? I got you. But you know what? Just like biomechanics can trigger inflammation because of malalignment or inappropriate firing of certain muscles.
Right. How you move in simplest form.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the top things that happens if you're training a lot is your microbiome gets disrupted. You make more inflammatory compounds. You don't sleep as well because you're on maybe different time zones, or you're that 23-year-old who's thinking you're immortal, play games till 3 a.m., go in, work out, go to work, whatever.
Running on nothing, on fumes, basically. Skipping meals, maybe.
They run on caffeinated drinks, really.
True.
It's really cool because now they've got those multi-serve caffeinated drinks, like the kegerators, where you can crack the top and then put it back on, and that way you drink it over 3 days. But what they really do is drink it in 3 minutes, but they could do it in 3 days if they wanted. So the point being is we're over caffeinating, we're under recovering, we're under sleeping, and then we have these hormonal shifts and biochemical shifts. And now we're asking our body to perform at its highest. And if you want to talk about what I have found, you asked me at the start of this, what is one of the hottest things you're seeing in aging?
Yeah.
I think people are overtraining and they're not taking care of themselves in order to perform at that level. I mean, I trained at a very high level, but I don't train like I trained in my 20s.
No.
I qualified for the USA, all that good stuff. I don't train like I did in my 30s or my 40s. I'm a 60-year-old.
Yeah, it changes.
And it changes, and you have to understand, how am I going to recover? Why is nutrition important? Why is red light therapy important? What's the value of infrared sauna? What is so cool about cryotherapy? Does it mean I'm going to live to 100 if I just do cold plunges every day and do Wim Hof breathing? I mean, I don't know, but I hit my head twice doing Wim Hof breathing. No, kidding.
I was like, oh my God, did you?
I'm kidding.
I was like, oh my word. I'm like, how did that happen?
No, getting lightheaded is how that happens, but it's no big deal. But the reality is, I think what we're missing in all of this is that, and the biggest two things that happen, and I alluded to it when I talked about with diabetes to cancer, when your cells become inefficient, your mitochondria are no longer very efficient at making energy, right? Mitochondria being the powerhouses of every cell in your body.
Yep.
The other thing that happens is cell plasticity in your brain. So you lose what's called neuronal plasticity or neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
So I ask this question to people all the time, and it's a very, very sophisticated question.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're pushing a thought through Jell-O? And some people will say, you know what? There's times in the day where I feel like I'm pushing a thought through Jell-O. The popular term now is foggy brain.
Yeah.
Right? But I think it's more, when I ask people who have advanced foggy brain, do you feel like you're pushing a thought through Jell-O? And their answer's like this. It's amazing. They go, yeah.
And you're like, and you just pushed that thought through the Jell-O, didn't you?
Exactly. That's it. That's 100% it. And it's scary because when I asked a lot of 20 to 40-year-olds, I was already getting in 40% of a room of quite a big groups. Probably up to 40% would say they have short-term memory loss already.
Oh, really?
which is scary.
And do you think that all of these things are an effect of our environment and like how we're taking, and this is what I see, and just like from hearing you speak and knowing what I know about like this research and the like cryotherapy and the way that people are training and all of this information, I feel like people are picking one thing and thinking this is going to save me.
Oh,
They
yeah.
think I'm going to go to sauna one time a week and I'm going to keep training hard because I hear all the girls that build their butts have their lifting every day. And that's it. I'm going to be saved and I am a healthy. Check.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you
That's
forgot.
like what I see.
Well, you forgot about spermidine. If you take spermidine
Oh, yeah.
and drink
Oh, my God.
and drink a teaspoon of olive oil.
So
If you just
funny.
do those two things, you're just so set.
But I think that I don't want to make this conversation at all about social media, but I will say a lot of what I see are people, sharing like this is what works for me, and this I've like changed my health and wellness from taking, like a supplement and just doing a few things, but not, spreading that vastly and telling people when they don't understand their anatomy, it's not going to like fully help you. It might, but I mean.
Yeah, I think, look, social media has done a great job of it kind of, I think, exploding the concept of taking care of yourself and individual empowerment. So I think that part's good.
That is great.
But I do think there's that dual-edged sword where people are creating that magic bullet effect, which came out of the pharmaceutical industry, which is just do this.
Yeah.
And I think a great example of that, it's like the blue zone concept.
I know,
right?
which I was going to bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that thought of, I'm going to eat like a Sardinian, and therefore, no matter how hectic my day is, no matter how many emails that I got frustrated over, no matter how much road rage I had, no matter how poorly I eat
or sleep,
but I drank some Italian wine, and I'm eating like the Italians did, and that's it.
And I'm going to live the longest.
I'm gonna be a centurion like them.
Blue zones, by the way, everybody, are the zones in the world where the people live the longest and are quote unquote the healthiest based on their environment and many other things. But what people don't, the point you're making is that people just think, oh my God, well, if they eat a lot of pasta and it's organic and I drink their wine, I'm going to probably live longer.
Yeah. And then it gets confusing if you want to live in all four blue zones, because you got Icarus, Greece. So you're hammering the baklava, you're going over to Okinawa, Japan. Now you're eating the pork butts and the root vegetables, Loma Linda, California.
Yep.
And then of course, Sardinia in Italy. So it's like, oh my gosh, which blue zone do I pick?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's terribly tough. But I think what was lost, well, first of all, they're eating more whole food.
Okay,
and let's just get this out. We eat a lot of hybridized food here. Most people don't eat more than 3 vegetables a day.
Yep.
We're not eating a plant-forward diet. I'm not a fan of being vegan, but I do think. And if it's your religious choice or a theosophical choice, then I totally respect it.
Absolutely.
Try to help you any way I can when you come to me. First thing I'll try to do is get you to try to get some protein in you. But other than that, but the issue becomes we don't really have great food here. Even our food that's raised, we don't have the rich soil. So in these other areas, you got to first start at food quality.
Okay.
Then you have to think about food quantity, like how much do they eat? And a lot of us are now intermittent fasting. I don't know about you, but I started doing 18-6, but then I'm doing 17-7. Then I stopped on 17-7 and went more to like 14-10.
So you are doing it right now?
Well, no, like every day I change up so I can like just have a different number.
That's kind of
So
fun, isn't it?
important.
It's creative. Yeah, I like that. You're creative. You're a creative mind, I can tell.
Well, you know what's funny about it, really? So one of the things that you see across those cultures is they have a very regimented schedule. I know for me growing up in an Italian family, you had breakfast at 7, you had lunch at 12, you had dinner at 5, you sat with the family, and if you're a good little Italian boy, you got a treat at 7 p.m., but the kitchen is closed after 7. If you go in the kitchen after 7,
oh, no.
the wooden spoon comes out.
Oh, no.
Now, that's the age I was at, right? So I know that's not appropriate anymore.
Yep.
Just saying.
We know.
I'm not saying the spoon went anywhere. I'm just saying my mom would hold it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like say nothing, just hold the spoon up. It was enough. But the point being is that was a 12-12 fast.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It would be.
Yeah. And if you
it's
look
7
at
to 7.
A lot of cultures already had that in their way that they lived.
So it wasn't necessarily considered a fast. It was just how the life was happening. It was how your nutrients was being fed into your body and what times you weren't eating, what times you were.
Sure. And for me, I see a lot of people that come to me, they're doing 18-6s, 18 hours of fast, 6 hours of eating. Their labs don't look very good.
Yeah.
Just straight up. So when you look at these blue zones, and I loved when we were talking before
Yeah.
this interview that you picked up on the most important part of the blue zones. And I was like, for your age to pick that up? No, just kidding.
I'm a smarty pants is what he's saying.
Yeah, ultra smarty pants. I mean, come on. So yes, it's true. Eating more plants, trying not to overdo protein.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, the amount of movement that they did in a day. The 85-year-olds walking up and down, several hundred flights of steps in Sardinia, for example. I'm going to use that one because it's kind of my heritage.
I love that.
I love it. And I think that was important. But I think across all the cultures, what was important was social relevance in the elderly population, that they continued to be meaningful and lead meaningful lives. And I think we lose context to that. And I got to tell you this quick story. My father was a world famous chef.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Top 100 chefs in the world, National Chef of the Year in the U.S. multiple times. Really a forerunner in the industry. Had diabetes, developed cancer at 79. 8 times the risk of an intestinal cancer if you're a person with diabetes versus not. That's why we want people not to be insulin resistant. That's why we want people not to develop diabetes. That's the value of GLP-1s and out in the marketplace like Ozempic. How do we help people at all cost turn back from that? He has it's called a Whipple, a surgery. Takes off the lower third of your stomach.
Oh, wow.
All of the duodenum and the top head of your pancreas. The most complex surgery you can have as an intestinal surgery. And you typically will only live 3 or 4 more years, maybe 5, when you're 40 years old. He's 79 when that happens. He comes to live with us at 79. I say, Dad, you got to come live with us. It's that simple. I have a son. My son's very young at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa is now cooking breakfast for the son. And Grandpa's also learning how to eat Jim's way.
Yeah, because he's under your roof.
Yeah, under the roof. It's this way now, Grandpa. The party's over, buddy. And
party's over.
And guess what? He lived to the age of 91. And he got to see my son grow up, and my son got to be with his grandpa. But the most important part of it is he had purpose and meaning every day. And he went to the VFW and helped out and cooked at the VFW branch and went to the senior center. And because when he woke up and had purpose and meaning and was a part of a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe it's one of the biggest things. Yeah, diet and the things I gave him, it made a difference. But I truly believe social context is something we are losing sight of. And we all have to start, and I really mean this, we have to start embracing each other and having genuine feelings of concern, empathy, compassion, love. These are the things that end up making us as human beings.
Yeah.
If we want to live longer. And
absolutely.
Don't get exposed to environmental burdens and watch the stress. And we do eat too much too often, too late, pick the wrong foods, get under a lot of stress, and then don't get enough sleep. So before we even talk about all the other things that can happen to us, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You ate that potato and it was wrapped in aluminum foil. You're going to die, right? Before we do all that, let's just get rooted in the things that matter. And I think these are some of the key things that really matter.
I love hearing that because it is such a healthy conversation to have, and you're just full of knowledge and just full of perspective, and it's just so healthy to hear about it as like, yes, we're talking about microwaving things in plastic and having plastics in our bodies. And we're talking about tinfoil. Now you can't use tinfoil. And talking about how you can't use, you should be using natural products in your face, but chemicals are how you don't age. And it's bananas. No one can keep up. I bet every single one of you listening has like the longest notes in your phone or something where you're trying to figure out which thing to prioritize next. So this is really helpful.
Sure.
I want you to just button it up a little bit because we're talking a lot about like the future and what we need to be doing, for the later. But like listeners right now in their early or late teens, all through their 20s, all through their 30s and 40s, like thinking about my main target audience, what could they do right now to set them up better for their future?
Yeah,
it's a loaded question, right? Like it is a little bit loaded, but it's good.
No, it is. But I mean, I end up seeing a lot of people in their teens and 20s and 30s, because they already have problematic metabolism. So here's the key things. One is if you don't understand how to manage your stress, figure that out. Whether you do something simple like box breathing to unload your sympathetic nervous system, Maybe you need to seek counseling.
Yeah.
Whatever that reason is, try to understand your stress and your stress response. Everybody's built different. A lot of people said, I always tell people, I don't really get stressed. I give stress. It's part of my gift to the world.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds wonderful.
Exactly.
Can't wait to be gifted that.
Exactly. So, but there are people like that, right? Like we don't even realize that we're stressing out others because maybe we're high energy and we're passionate and we're wanting to, do a lot, right? But at the same time, so manage that stress.
Yep.
Get sleep. I mean, the biggest thing that I fight with teenagers is sleep because the demands that are being put on them to study and participate in athletics.
Right.
So
I
it's
remember those
oh my
days.
God. Oh yeah. You have to get a 4.5. 4.0 is not good enough now. You better get a 4.5 and you better win every award on every sport field that you get on. And, it was something that I had a fight with. I know with my son, he would get mad at me because I would turn it back a little bit because, he was all state in 2 sports and was that kid that they wanted. And, but the problem with that is that you don't recover, you don't grow.
Right.
Right. So the biggest thing I see there is we think that children are just small adults.
No.
And they're not. They're not emotionally ready for the stress of being the perfect hitter or gymnast or soccer player or whatever it is. Let's let them have fun.
Yeah.
And
we forget about that.
We miss that. And I'm also going to say that as we evolve as teens and grown-ups, we forget about we're supposed to have fun.
I know.
We're supposed to laugh. We're supposed to have joy. Joy, super important. And so that's big. The other one is it's real simple. You got to watch what you eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you about all the cool things. I mean, I've never met a supplement I didn't like.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've written 4 databases on dietary supplements. I lecture.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I look for new compounds all over the world. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That I get asked. There's a senatorial commission on dietary supplements. 9 Americans were picked. I was one of them.
That's
right?
pretty freaking amazing.
It's neat. It's an honor. It's very cool. But my point is, I love them. But at the same time, if I didn't eat well, if I didn't think about eating whole foods, best sourced, clean your produce, try not to drink out of plastic too much and definitely do not microwave in plastic.
Please, for the love of God, if you're still doing that.
Simple.
I know people that will buy like organic, like really like grass-fed, really organic meat, and they microwave it in a plastic container. And I'm like, wait, what are you doing? You almost had it.
It's even better because it's those cheap meal prep things.
I
right?
know. That's what I'm thinking of too, to be honest.
The real low end ones, right? The black ones with the clear top.
And I'm like, no,
Perfect.
Don't do that. But that's very tangible.
But no, these are simple things. The other thing I would say is don't drink a lot of fluid while you're eating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one.
Why would you dilute your digestive acids by drinking a lot of fluid while you're eating?
Never knew that.
Simple. And then don't drink alkaline water too much.
Alkaline,
really
you said, or alcohol water?
Alkaline water.
Alkaline
Why
water.
would I say don't
I know.
drink alcohol
I'm like, come on, what's going on?
Don't hurt me.
No, don't hurt me. Oh my God, alkaline water meaning people who actually add the alkaline.
Well, it's so popular now. Drink alkaline water.
I have heard of it.
Drink high pH water. In every store, even Walmart, alkaline water. Why would you not drink alkaline water? Because when you drink alkaline water, you dilute your stomach acid. And it doesn't make you alkaline. Drinking alkaline water does not make you alkaline because one of the primary things about retarding metaflammation and inflammaging is staying a little alkaline. So your urine pH should be close to 7, salivary pH 7.2. And how do you do that? By providing minerals. What minerals? Magnesium and potassium. Where do you get magnesium?
Well, I take a magnesium supplement, but
and that grows on what tree specifically? The magnesium pill?
I'm not sure.
That's what I'm saying. So now you get the ultra smarty pants is gone, and now you're only smarty pants.
I'm only smarty pants. Dang it!
You're down 1 now.
Dang it!
So in the center of a hemoglobin molecule, when you eat meat, what is in the center of a hemoglobin molecule? That gives you energy and builds your blood and starts with an I and ends with an RON.
Iron.
Back to ultra smarty pants. Perfect. There we go. Now, how do we get magnesium? What's it the center of?
Iron.
No, magnesium is not the center of iron. Magnesium is at the center of green leafy vegetables known as, what's the ingredient in that? Chlorophyll.
Oh.
So when you eat green leafy vegetables and you get chlorophyll, the center of a chlorophyll molecule is magnesium. So just like you eat, that's why I'm on the show.
Hello.
I'm trying to help you.
I'm
here.
like, wow.
You said keep it simple.
Keep it.
I'm trying.
And you are, and you're doing a great job.
Well, I'm thinking about bringing in the builder blocks. It's so. So the point being is,
I'm going to need them on the table. I'm like, okay, and okay. Where? Okay,
Spell
flip it over.
Again.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So nobody's eating green plants, and the ones that they're eating, look, if you go and you get a green drink at the grocery store, people think, "Ooh, I'm getting a green drink."
Yeah, I know.
What it really is green coloring in pineapple juice.
I've read the back.
Right. 88 grams of sugar.
Yeah,
right. 88 grams
me.
of sugar in a green machine drink. I won't say who the maker is.
I know. I already know.
I'll just say the name of it. And so you'll never drink that drink. So
please
88 grams of sugar, you may as well drink 2 Coca-Colas.
I'd rather.
2 full. Yeah, right. At least it's kind of tasty and fizzy
exactly.
and, gives you the caffeine.
That's
you don't
what
even
I'm
get
saying.
that. So the point is, and you don't realize there's how many teaspoons of sugar in a 12-ounce can of pop?
I honestly don't. I have no idea because I don't really drink pop anymore.
But this is an education point, right? So here we go. 10 teaspoons of sugar. 10 teaspoons in 12 ounces. 10 teaspoons.
And how much sugar should we have a day?
Woo! Just about maybe, if actual sugar like that, maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
I mean, tops.
So you're already
total,
like
from
tripling your intake.
And
it has to be, it's from everything.
Yeah, that's the fruit you're eating, everything, right? Carb, fruit, you name it. But the big thing is, what's interesting is the biggest thing that's influenced our obesity epidemic, depending on which data set you want to kind of verticalize and slice up.
Yeah.
Intake of soft drinks has been unbelievable. But now we're replacing soft drinks with these high impact, high fructose fruit drinks, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just as bad.
Yeah.
And then the other piece, of course, is with the incidence of pesticide use, 90% of all pesticides made in the world are put on what?
Fruit.
On our food.
On our food.
How do you get it off?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's part of a trick question, but you have to wash your.
It is a trick.
You have to wash your food.
It is a trick question.
But I don't know that you can get them all off.
You could do a pretty good job, and you're right. You wash them. So I'm going to give you another hot tip because you said you wanted tangible stuff.
I love tangible
I'm trying to give you
takeaways.
tangible. You know Dawn dishwashing liquid?
Yes.
Dawn. You get none of the flavored stuff. Like I don't want it to smell like Floral Breeze or any of that stuff. You get the clear. A few drops of that in water, then soak your produce in that. It is one of the best, what's called surfactants. It pulls lipid-soluble compounds off of the skins of your vegetables and fruit. And then you wash it clear afterwards. So you don't want to get a soapy mouth.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it cleans it fantastic. And it's cheap. It's not expensive.
Does baking soda do that? I've seen baking soda, people talking about that lately. And vinegar, I believe.
Not as good.
Not as good, really?
Not even close.
Really?
Really? Honest.
Oh
because you need a surfactant. You need something. A lot of these pesticides are sprayed on have a little bit of oil solubility to them.
So you need something
that
oil soluble.
Breaks it down, right?
And
that's
so
done.
Just rinsing it in your hand underneath a sink of water isn't going to do it?
Oh, then eating it right afterwards? Yeah. If you chew it really thoroughly, no. No matter what.
Oh my God.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
No.
See, these are sad because you think you're doing it like, you're like, yeah, no, I wash my fruit. And you're like, you're washing your fruit how maybe your parents wash their fruit. And you're like, no, I'm good. I'm washing my fruit. Well, rinsing it under the water right before you put it in your bowl of yogurt is not going to help you.
Not really.
Not really.
Now,
it's
buy
like
organic.
it's microscopic difference. Okay.
Right,
So,
right. But I mean, we're buying organic solid, right? But all the organochlorines that go into the air, right? So you have organic chlorine circulation, right? You see in the pictures where stuff gets put in the air from our manufacturing, then it goes in the clouds, then it rains, and it comes back down on our earth. Well, I don't know if you've seen those new organic farms, but it's super cool because they've got these, basically, when it starts to rain, it's got a sensor on it, and these huge umbrellas come up and protect it from the organic chlorine rain. I hope you're not believing me.
I'm like, what the hell?
It's not true.
I would believe it. I mean, I've seen farms and what they do now, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, I'm pretty gullible though. I'm like, oh really?
I've
Wow.
noticed. This is making it fun for me. So the point
Jim's
being,
having a good time.
I am having a blast. So, but the point being is, we can't. You'll have to wash everything.
Yeah.
It's better if you don't eat. If you are going to buy non-organic produce, and some people can't afford it.
Yep.
Go to the Environmental Working Group. You've probably talked about
Yes.
it, ewg.org. You
Yep.
can look up the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15.
Just think if something has an outer layer, an outer shell. That's basically the simplest way to put it. It's like a banana has a protective outer shell, so it's not as risk forward, right?
That's
You're not needing to wash the piece that you eat because it's inside a shell. That's the easiest
way to
put
think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, all the cosmetics are on there as well, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
the ones that are cleanest. But I mean, I know you've probably said it many times, but you have to reinforce it. You may have somebody new out there that doesn't know not to look for those things. So I think those are the big things. So, for those people in their teens, 20s, 30s, and 40s, the other thing is you kind of got to watch your alcohol intake.
I kind of was going to wait for you to say that, to be honest. And I've more recently, I've talked about this on the podcast, kind of like dwindled my alcohol intake. I'm not really as interested in it. I feel like I feel terrible the next day anyway. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I also just don't get the enjoyment I used to. It used to be a social barrier. It used to be something to make you feel like more comfortable, I think, at least for what my experiences were with it. And, I no longer want to waste a Sunday. I actually don't have the time to do that, so I don't like how I feel after.
Yeah.
It sets me backwards.
I think it's fairly complex because you have people that have alcohol genes. And so when they get under a lot of stress, they trigger something, the reward cascade. And the reward cascade makes you go, I want something sweet. I want something salty. I want some alcohol. I want to smoke something, right? It's called hedonic urge. So there are people that have those kind of issues that you really want to help address, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in general that, and look, I hate saying back when I was in school, it's kind of, and look, I was not, the purest path person. Let's put it that way.
Okay, got it.
Just
picking it up.
Being truthful. But at the same time, I think the intensity watching my son and his generation, he's 24, man, the amount of alcohol and drug use that went on socially from high school all the way through college was, it was amazing to me to see kind of the acceleration from
my parents said the same thing.
My age to now, so it's a 40-year gap basically, right? And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that too much alcohol is kind of bad.
Yeah.
It just is. And
you can keep it even at that. It's like, it just is what it is. It's not good for your body. It's a poison. We found that out, I hate to say it. I'm not saying don't go enjoy your red wine as long as it's not full of like sulfates and things like that.
Right.
But or a cocktail here and there if you enjoy it and you can control what your intake is, but it's just not good for you. It's just not it's not, it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to have any more reason than that. It's a personal choice to make those changes, but it's just not.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big deal. And I think the other one that's really important is I don't want to get into genetics too much, but it is true. Like, for example, if you're in what's called an ApoE34 or 44 gene SNP, so you've got these ApoE genes. And if you're a 34 or 44, you're at a 4-fold risk of dementia and heart disease.
Oh my God.
And it turns out that if you eat a lot of saturated fat or drink more alcohol, you end up at heightened risk. And why that's a problem is that, hey, everybody went to bulletproof coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody should be taking lots of fat in.
Yeah.
Problem. For the ApoE34s and 44s, it made their lipids crazy and it drove metaflammation in them. And now you're seeing whoever made bulletproof coffee, not going to say any words, kind of changing their story now. So it's like, oh my God, I actually learned something. I guess I wasn't right.
I didn't do all the research behind the scenes and pull the curtain back.
That's because I'm a marketer. But other than that, when you start getting into this, you really, and that's why, just honestly, I'm busy doing research and working on people and developing programs like MIORA, where we're really diving into individualized health for individuals, finding out what's right for you, and helping you just be guided to the right decisions, right? In the end, you still got to make the decisions what you're going to do. But the sat fat thing is a big deal because you're supposed to be under 20 grams of sat fat. So what's everybody doing now? Oh, I'm going to plant-based cheese, plant-based food. Some of that plant-based food is just as high in sat fat because it's a lot of coconut oil as if you were eating meat, and it has the same metabolic effect. And that's why, when you say, hey, what should we be learning about? We really ought to be learning about us. We ought to understand, why am I drinking this alcohol? Am I craving do I eat a cookie, then go, oh, I don't like one cookie, I want two. And then you go, oh, I don't like the number 2. I'm going to go to 3.
Yep.
And then before you know it, you're through 6. That's the sign you have metabolic imbalances when you can't control those kind of things. And it's not about pointing fingers.
No.
And that's the whole reason I developed the metabolic code. The whole reason for the metabolic code was after seeing hundreds of patients a week and me explaining the same problems over and over again to people. You cluster into this category. You're a gut immune brain person. Here is where your main problem is. Your gut is leaky. You're reacting to food. Your immune system is triggering inflammation, and your brain is foggy and you're feeling depressed.
Yep.
Or you're an adrenal thyroid pancreas person. You're tired midday. You're craving carbs. You're gaining weight and you don't have energy. Literally, people cluster into these metabolic networks that have been written about. They've been written about in healthcare. But the reason I told you I was a bricklayer.
Yep.
And, look, Microsoft's health data analytics, division looked at our platform and went, wow, pretty cool.
That's great.
Obviously, MIORA looked at it and said, wow, pretty cool. And, we've got big groups of folks that are going, hey, this is pretty advanced analytics. What was advanced was all the writing behind it. What wasn't advanced was saying, wow, I guess we're one whole body that's interacting and signaling, and all of these parts are working together in harmony or not. And you heard this term, we're only as strong as the weakest link.
Right.
So where is my metabolic roadblock that I need to work on so that I can maximize my longevity and what I call performance health?
Yes. That's why I did it, is because I wanted to understand am I ignoring these little pieces that maybe come together as one and are actually like talking to each other. Like,
that's right.
Maybe my no sleep is related to something that is causing me to be inflamed in my diet, and that's causing me to have a high cortisol because I'm stressed. They all talk to each other.
That's exactly right.
And ignoring those things now is actually going to set you up for failure later. And it's not just a trend to be healthy. It's actually a good idea to be healthy, believe it or not. And I think we all want to genuinely be healthy and feel good. But I'm here to tell you, and why I brought Dr. Jim into this conversation in the first place is because it's not the chlorophyll drops in your water. It's not the workout routine that you have just solo. It's not just hoping and praying that like 2 nights of sleep a week when you go to bed early and you tap yourself on the back like, good job, I went off my phone early, is going to make you healthy. It's not. It's diving deeper. If you truly want to be ahead and on it, I'm not pushing you to make a million changes. I'm just pushing you to research your own body, do the work, make larger changes, and listen to your body. What I said in the other episode with Jim Riggins when we were talking about my specific code is, if I could go back, which I mentally did, but if I could do something right now, I would write down on a piece of paper the symptoms of like my sleep, how I feel, what foods I'm sensitive to, my general workout habits, like general like a body scan of like what I want to understand.
Sure.
Write it down. My rule was like, if there's more than 2, that is something I need to go figure out what's going on. And sometimes the answer isn't just sleeping a little bit more. It's actually figuring out what hormone is going wacky in your body or what supplement you're actually really low on.
Right.
And if you would have asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago to get on more supplements, I would have said, I don't need supplements. I have a really good diet.
I eat good.
I eat well.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
No.
Absolutely.
So I just have, it's crazy the change that I've undergone. And it's crazy how much, once you get a little piece of it, you want more. And I want to understand more. And I'm like, okay, I want you to talk about this and I want to talk about this. So this was just like insanely helpful. And I hope that everybody heard all of those pieces that you called out in specific, like sleep, like eating whole foods, like washing your whole foods, like pulling back your intake on sugar, figuring out your stress and your stress responses and figuring out how you can lessen that, like whether it be meditation, box breathing. I like to think the therapy or what's it called? Red light therapy downstairs
helps. Red light therapy is
out.
awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And cryo, I've been doing that too.
Absolutely.
Which is basically like a cold chamber, and it is uncomfortable and it actually makes you feel completely different, which is crazy. It's really good for you, but it's a stress related practice,
Well,
basically.
it's when you get out, right?
Yeah.
And when you get out, you feel all those changes in your body. Like, whoa, somebody switched some circuits on me. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like I'm powering down, but powering down really isn't powering down. Powering down is getting back in balance.
Right.
So, I think it's super important. And look, the biggest thing that I think, as you build on this, you can start to talk about subsets of this. Like, well, what about cortisol, thyroid hormone, and pancreas? And what do you feel like when those are out of balance? And why does it matter? What are the symptoms that you feel? Because I think the biggest thing that people miss a lot of times is they go, well, if it doesn't show up in a lab test, it isn't real. And that's a big mistake. That is a huge mistake, because a lot of times symptoms are showing up before your labs change. And a lot of, I wrote a book called Your Blood Never Lies. All right. It's one of my books I wrote.
I literally put that on my story today. I said, your blood work doesn't lie. That's what I said about taking more supplements. Cause I was like, no, I'm not going to take more. And then it literally, my blood work said, no, you need to be taking way more vitamin D and figure out your iron intake.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh shoot. Okay. So supplements are good. I got it. Okay.
Exactly. And the point is, things can be going wrong in your blood. A great example of this is blood glucose. You go to the doctor, you get a 95 blood sugar, you're told you're normal. A 95 blood sugar indicates a 60% risk of being a person with diabetes in the next decade. But it's normal for the U.S.? Is that why they call it normal? What's normal. Any range you're at, if you're in the upper third quartile of blood sugar, no matter where you're at, you already are damaging your tissues. You already are leading your risk of becoming a diabetic. Now, the way we did the metabolic code was, so if I got a 95 blood sugar and my blood pressure is a little high and my kidney function's a little low and my magnesium's a little low and my lipids are a little off, I just strung together a string of pearls of metabolic dysfunction. And that string of pearls is telling me, I need to start to listen to my body. And then you add, in addition to that, because they're just trends, am I getting tired after I eat? Do I pass out after larger meals, right? Like I literally want to pass out. Do I feel gassy? Do I feel bloated? What are the symptoms related to that? Do I feel puffy, holding on to fluid, right? What do I feel like? I think what you said earlier was actually brilliant. Now you're in the mega ultra smarty pants. Let's
go.
You're at the top, because I mean it. I loved that you said, I want to write down what I feel, what I feel when I ate this. How do I feel when I didn't get that sleep? How do I feel when I had that alcohol? What kind of alcohol? Now, we got these watches now, right? And a lot of people find out,
or a ring, but I'm not wearing mine. I forgot.
Whichever. It's good today. You can see it. Your aura is good. See
might be the ring light over in the corner, but totally.
Exactly. But the point is that now everybody's going, oh wow, I didn't realize when I drank that drink that my sleeping quality went down. And you have to really think about this, and I kid about it all the time, but it's really weird that we need a watch to tell us it's time to breathe.
I think it is.
Think about that. 12 times a day you're told to breathe. What's the rest of the day like? Oh, you can have shallow breathing with low diaphragmatic breath the rest of the day, but these 12 times you're going to breathe deep. No, and why does that happen? Because when you're under chronic sympathetic tone, meaning
stress,
I'm always under stress. And look, we could talk a lot about the metabolic effect of stress from the brain down. But when you're stuck, when you lose your circadian rhythm, you lose your brain heart synchronicity, HRV goes down, resting heart rate goes up, and you're now shallow breathing, you're loading up lactic acid. That's a huge deal. But what's sad is we need
a watch
to tell us time to breathe. But I love wearables. Don't get me wrong, because
of course,
if you listen to them, like, oh wow, I drank that liquor and I got a 30-minute REM sleep.
If that,
right?
If you're lucky, if you get any, right? When you drink, but so all of that being said, I don't want to freak anybody out. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't want to freak them out that there's things that they need to do, but you do need to take action on your health. That's period, end of story.
Yeah.
And just working on the things that Jim talked about will get you a step further in your health journey.
That's
and
right.
creating curiosity and doing good things might make you think, okay, now I'm ready to dive a little deeper, and I think I'm going to do blood work, like what you guys do over at MIORA when you're talking about the metabolic code and the blood work panels, which I did. So I'm not telling you to go from A to Z. I'm just telling you that health experts, people who know, people who can see behind the blinds, are telling you the very blatantly obvious that we've heard many times, I think, about like the whole foods and the washing your foods and the sleep and the stress. So please take something from this and use it. And I'm not asking everybody that, if you're like, okay, I'm not ready for my blood work, I don't know what's in there yet, I need to take some steps forward to just do it. But you have to be active, and you have to be actively trying to improve your health in the world that we live in. And that's sad, but it's the truth.
Look, it's simple. There's two kinds of people in the world, right? And I think most people need to do one or two things when they hear a podcast and they take something to heart. They go, okay, I can do one or two things. Yeah. And I'm going to build on that from there. And then there's Spartans, right? And Spartans, I think, are probably a little twisted. I'm a Spartan. If I come to you and I listen and I go, wow, how come she only gave me 10 things to do? I want all of them. I wanted 12.
Yeah.
No, I want more than anybody else because I want to get ahead, right? I mean, it's that piece where there's some people that can accomplish making major shifts. Now, the one thing I'll say, the sicker people get, or the more motivated they are for some reason, but the sicker they get in general, the more they're willing to become Spartans because they get scared. And that's what I want to try to prevent for people is, getting scared because, when I have people come into me and they have cancer or they have autoimmune disease or they've got, ulcerative colitis, so big things that happen to people at younger and younger ages. Yeah. Right. Yep. Scary how rapid cancer is growing in the 20s, right?
That's scary.
I mean, the data that just came out is nuts. So the point being is not to scare anybody, but don't wait to have that scary moment. Start to do what exactly you said. Start writing down what makes you feel like what. And start to take more time to investigate your health than the time you took to purchase your first car or your first house or your first refrigerator.
Or scroll on Instagram.
Or the next Netflix that you're going to pick, whatever.
Yeah.
Take more time to investigate you. You're going to find out that it pays off in immense dividends because when you feel better, everything works out better.
Yep.
Clearer mind, better relationships, better sense of worth, all that stuff starts to happen.
Slow down, all of the things. I think that there are things that people can take away from this. I truly get intimidated by the information too, because I know that people listening are probably like, some of the words and some of the hormones and some of the chains that you called out. I'm like, holy crap, never heard of that. But the fact of the matter is us listeners, me, you guys, we don't need to worry about those things. What we need to worry about is what they're telling us. They do all the research. Dr. Jim did all the research for you. We just get to take the information, which we're lucky for that. So instead of thinking I'm overwhelmed, I'm going to ignore, I'm going to take something from this and do something with it. So I really appreciate that. All of this, it's truly helpful and it makes sense to my brain. And I'm like, it's not scary anymore. Yeah. And I don't feel scared because I'm like, well, if I'm here now at 26, about to be 27, wanting to create change, I think I'm doing pretty good. And I'm ready to learn and take in information. And I'm ready to listen to my body.
It's a huge journey.
Yep.
And I've done it since the age of 13, and I think it's paid well. For me, it's paid off well. I have a big genetic factors
I was going to say you've got
me.
Big genetic factors, but you're still creating change because of listening to your body and doing change and doing active things.
Works until the day we lay, horizontal, right? I always tell people it's a good day when you're vertical and you feel good. And, it's just important that, as you said, make change. If you have muscle cramps, figure out why.
Yeah.
Typically it's magnesium because you're not getting the chlorophyll in, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. But, figure it out.
Just figure out what you're feeling and figure out what you're seeing.
That's exactly right.
I love this conversation. Well, I want to do one more thing before we wrap up.
Okay.
I have a call SID, which basically means somebody wrote in or called me. This one's a write-in.
All right.
And they want advice. And
Good.
The only person I felt like could answer this well, because I am not a doctor, is you. So I'm going to have us read it. It's a little bit on the longer side, but I think it's going to be worth answering to this person because I want to make them feel better and more at ease. Okay.
Great.
Worrying about my health. Am I wrong for constantly worrying about my heart health? My dad went into cardiac arrest in late January last year, where your heart stops. They couldn't figure out how to get his heart to beat on its own and were confused because he's extremely healthy. This went on for weeks. We weren't sure he was going to make it. There were constant up and downs while he was in the ICU and completely sedated. They even thought he needed a heart transplant. Eventually, they figured out that he has a genetic heart disease called ARVC, where his heart rhythms are not correct. Flash forward to now, he has a defibrillator and doesn't need a heart transplant, thank goodness. He's in much better and he's walking and talking. He was on harsh heart medications and was being put through many operations. He's doing so much better now and is even driving. He has some brain damage from the lack of oxygen from his brain when he went into cardiac arrest. It's hard to cope with all of these changes, and I'm not even my dad. It's been the hardest year of my life. Unfortunately, this disease isn't something doctors can tell you if you're going to have right away and is extremely hard to spot. I'll need to go to the doctor every year for heart screenings and even 2 years for heart MRIs. There's a lot of genetic components that come along with this disease, but they don't have enough information on ARVC that they even don't recommend me getting genetic testing done. I've been put through countless cardiologist visits and tests. Everything looks good for me now. They told me to hold off on having kids for the time being. This is just very hard to adjust to, and I'm constantly worrying about my heart health. It has consumed me and everything I do and makes everything challenging. I'm overanalyzing everything my heart does. I'm in therapy and I actually started an SSRI, but the emotional healing process is very slow. I've even had countless panic attacks, which I've never experienced before due to worrying about the heart health. I get so in my head, it's really overwhelming, especially the holidays were coming up. It's been also hard to adjusting my dad's new personality. All in all, it's just been too much. I feel bad for constantly worrying about my health when my dad has been put through so much, but it also comes with a curse not knowing that and never being able to fully know if I have it, which is the problem I'm running into. I feel like I'm now just overanalyzing everything in my life and everything that I'm feeling. Any advice on moving forward and best things to keep myself calm when thinking about my health because I'm struggling?
Well, it's big.
Yeah, it's huge.
First of all, thank goodness her father came through it. And
exactly.
that medicine, critical medicine, not lifestyle medicine, but the best of traditional medicine fixed him. Yep. Beautiful. For her, I don't know what kind of therapy she's doing. I think something like EMDR, which specializes in kind of releasing the limbic system's attachment to the emotion and the event, will help to detach her a little bit.
Okay.
I think that this is very difficult, but working on understanding every day is precious. There are people that get their health taken away from them, their life taken away from them through, say, an accident. And you can't live in the fear of when that day is going to come. And you have to really face that. The other piece is that, she's on an SSRI. I would probably even try some other things that could go with that to keep the panic and the stress down. Something like theanine works really well.
Okay.
And then in terms of early diagnosis, look, in the end, genetics are what they are. You can have these rare lines in your body that create a problem like this. But the better you take care of yourself. So if she keeps her stress down, keeps that circadian rhythm of her cortisol intact, keeps her blood sugar intact, exercises appropriately for her situation, and really adopts just a lifestyle that says, I'm going to embrace my health.
Yep.
She can lean into that. I can lean into it and say, I'm doing everything I can for me because I value my life and I value my health. And, part of that is in whoever you worship, and, I'm going to use the term, it's in God's hands. Part of it you don't have the control over.
Which isn't everybody, though.
But that's for everybody. That is correct. And that's why I think for her, there's great new tests to figure out, are you calcifying? Are you, where is your nervous system at? What is the firing of your heart, right? All that stuff she can have done. But really what's going to count is adopting a lifestyle that empowers her. That's where she needs to go. And I love that.
That's what will save you. And your mind really is what you need to save first. And then all of the other things and the changes. And I apologize that happened to you. And I'm glad that you could, get that help and your dad could get that help. And I'm hoping you're listening right now and you can take Dr. Jim's advice and, take that with you. And, anybody who's got that going on where a family member, which is very common,
Yes.
has gone through something more traumatic or health related, whether it be parent or grandparent or aunt and uncle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think many of us, almost all of us, have experienced some sort of thing like this happen around them.
Right.
Me, most recently, my grandma had passed. She got basically acute form of cancer that spread to her lungs, and then she passed. So it's not happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. So
That's right.
all I can do in my mind is control my stress, control the things that you're talking about, and live my most healthy life, because that's what I can control.
That's
and once
right.
you can let go, you can live happily knowing that that's what you can control, and you're doing everything in your power. So thank you for writing this in too, by the way.
Look for joy.
Yep. Look for joy. Thank you for this. This was amazing. I mean, this was really, really empowering and impactful. And I love giving people information, and that excites me. It makes me feel like I can take a step forward in my life. That's what I like to do. Information for health, and then I also say information for self with it, which is the advice piece that I do. So it's health and self, which is kind of my themes. So thank you for being here and doing that. And can you please just shout out where people can find you if they have they want to find your books, or they want to come to MIORA, or whatever it is that you want to do.
They can go to jimlavalle.com. And the one thing I want to say about MIORA is we will have the largest living experiment of wellness and lifestyle anywhere in the world. And I mean, it's kind of cool. Lifetime's leading the way on it.
It is. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
And although I do work for Lifetime, I do sometimes drink the Kool-Aid because you kind of gotta. It's because I actually believe in it, because I'm a critic and a skeptic. And when I came in, I was like, let's see what's going on here with all things Lifetime, right?
Sure.
And then now I'm diving into the MIORA piece, and I've got my bloodwork panels done, and I'm going to start doing cryo and red light therapy, and I'm going to add some supplements that were recommended for me.
Right.
And it felt really out of touch when I looked at it so large. But now it's really not. It's actually
piece
really,
of you.
yeah, and it's really actually very graspable and not that crazy to me anymore. So I'm sorry I interrupted, but I just had to add that.
No, that was it. And thanks for having me. I mean, I always love anytime I get a chance to be able to share experiences or what's going on in health in the world. It's obviously been a passion of mine for my whole adult life, and I continue to wake up every day being excited about it. And I'm super excited about helping to guide this whole process here with MIORA and just change as many lives as possible. Right, that's the best thing that you can do.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it. Everyone, as always, follow at Well Said Podcast everywhere. YouTube is going to be your friend. If you can go over there and subscribe, that's always really helpful for me. I believe I'm around 10K, which is awesome on YouTube, and that's been a battle, and it's moving now. So if you haven't subscribed, please go do that. As always, you can write in for advice or call me at 612-470-7569. If you're overseas, I will need you to find the link in my bio. I appreciate you. As always, all I do in this podcast is to give information and give it to you. So I don't do this for myself. I do it to inform myself, of course, but I do it for you guys. So hopefully you took something away. Dr. Jim, thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
We'll talk to you next week, crew. Bye-bye.